27 News WKOW. Here's what's happening right now.
Right now, the Waukesha community is coming together to honor the people killed and injured in a holiday parade tragedy.
Tonight is the beginning of many painful nights where we will try to understand why last night's senseless actions occurred.
We're bringing you live team coverage of the investigation, the victims of this tragedy, and the support available for those in need.
In Waukesha tonight, authorities reveal more about the Milwaukee man who allegedly created terror in the streets of a traditional holiday parade.
The whole front end was done on the ground, and it was smushed up halfway through the car.
I'm A.J. Bryantport in Waukesha at the site of a community vigil, what one therapist is doing to give a place for people to process what happened last night at the parade.
We've got you covered. This is 27 News at 6.
The Waukesha community is still trying to process the tragedy that left 5 people dead and dozens of others hurt.
A holiday scene turned into a nightmare when a driver plowed through the city's annual Christmas parade. The tradition turned deadly in an instant yesterday afternoon. Part of the mayhem was captured on the city's live stream of the parade and on cell phones. One video shows a child dancing in the street as an SUV speeds by just a few feet behind her. The driver injured 48 people as he sped down the parade route on East Main Street.
5 people were killed. Police identified the victims this afternoon as 79-year-old Virginia Sorensen, 71-year-old Leanna Owen, 52-year-old Tamara Duran, 52-year-old Jane Kulik, and 81-year-old Wilhelm Hospital. Police say the man behind the wheel of that SUV is now in custody. They're referring 5 counts of intentional homicide against 39-year-old Daryl Brook. Authorities believe he had just left the scene of a domestic dispute before driving through the parade. He was released from jail in a separate domestic incident a week and a half ago.
Our team is following this developing investigation. A.J. Bryantport is standing by in Waukesha with the services to help the victims and their families. Emily Ness has you covered on how hospitals are dealing with a surge in patients. But first, Tony Galley explains the moments leading up to this tragedy. Tony.
Just 24 hours ago, police officials say the man who drove down Waukesha's Main Street here and into unsuspecting parade participants and onlookers was coming from the scene of alleged domestic violence not far away. Authorities allege 39-year-old Daryl Brooks drove that red SUV into senior citizens' children. Police officials say he was fleeing from that domestic situation and through the crowd. They also say there was no pursuit by officers to prompt this. After people were hit, the damaged red SUV ended up in this nearby driveway and just below a Waukesha woman's balcony.
He got out of the car, he started walking this way, he turned around, grabbed his head and said, "Oh, F," and turned around and took off.
At this time, the Waukesha Police Department is referring 5 counts of first-degree intentional homicide with additional charges based on the investigation.
The red SUV's driver is expected in court tomorrow. Milwaukee County's district attorney tonight is conceding the SUV's driver was only free and here in Waukesha because DA staff asked for too low a bail amount in connection with Daryl Brooks's 2 open violent crime cases. Reporting live in downtown Waukesha, Tony Galley, 27 News.
All right, Tony, thank you. Again, 48 people were injured. More than a dozen were children. At least 18 kids were hospitalized at Children's Wisconsin, and several are still in critical condition. But hospital officials say the impact goes further.
The injuries from Sunday night will go well beyond the physical and will take time to heal. Each of these injuries impacts a family, friends, and a larger circle beyond those immediately injured.
Hospital officials say as soon as they heard about the incident, they activated their trauma surge plan, calling in nurses, doctors, and surgeons. Other hospitals and staff members attending the parade jumped in to help. Emily Ness continues our team coverage with their initial and ongoing response to the surge in patients. Emily?
Well, as you mentioned, George, a number of local healthcare professionals were already at the parade. After watching the tragedy play out, they sprang into action and began to help transport victims to hospitals. One of these hospitals was Waukesha Memorial Hospital, which is located just blocks from the parade. They received a total of 29 patients. Sadly, one of those patients died. 11 others were transferred to Children's Wisconsin. 18 children, ranging in age from 3 to 16, were admitted to Children's for injuries including facial abrasions, broken bones, and serious head trauma. Among those hospitalized, there were 3 sets of siblings. 10 children are in the ICU, 6 of them are in critical condition, 3 in serious condition, and 1 is in fair condition. Aurora Medical Center also received 13 patients last night. 3 were in critical condition, 4 in serious condition, and 6 in fair condition. Today, officials are commending first responders and healthcare professionals for their efforts to care for victims.
What I saw on display last night in response to this crisis was nothing less than the highest level of professionalism.
A phone line has been set up for victims and their families to get support. It is on your screen right now. The number is 414-266-6500.
Emily, thank you. And Governor Tony Evers ordered all flags be flown at half-staff across the state to honor those who were killed and hurt in the parade. As Wisconsin and Waukesha work to heal, the city's mayor says the community will do it together.
Waukesha, though, will not be defined by the horrific events of last night. We are a community that will come together. We will help those who experience the loss of a loved one or were injured. We will work together to bring healing. The healing needs to begin now.
There are many more people in Waukesha who may have suffered injuries we cannot see on the outside. AJ Byapor is live with more on the efforts to help anyone traumatized by the horrific scenes along the parade route. AJ.
Amber, we are at Cutler Park. Much like the Christmas parade, this is supposed to be a happy place for people in Waukesha. That stage behind me is where people gather every Tuesday in the summer for community concerts. On this late November Monday, people came together to mourn at a vigil that ended a short time ago. Now, one therapist tells me that type of event is crucial. People need a place to come together and grieve. Rochelle Coffey is a psychotherapist in Brookfield, and she tells us that she has cleared out her schedule for tomorrow. At that office in Brookfield, she says her doors will be open for anyone who needs to come in and talk about what they've experienced, or simply because they're hurting, because they know somebody who's been affected by these terrible events.
The jury in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial will soon be deliberating his fate. We're bringing you live team coverage. George Smith and AJ Byapor are following everything from Kenosha.
I'm George Smith in Kenosha. Closing arguments are wrapping up in the Kyle Rittenhouse homicide trial. Then it will be up to the jury to decide whether he shot 3 people in self-defense.
I'm AJ Byapor outside the Kenosha County Courthouse with reaction from the 2 sides of demonstrators here, including the out-of-state couple that once made national headlines themselves.
We've got you covered. This is 27 News at 6.
It's been one of the most closely watched cases in Wisconsin, and now the trial for Kyle Rittenhouse is nearing an end. Rittenhouse shot 3 people, killing 2 of them during a protest in Kenosha in August of 2020. He was 17 when he traveled from his home in Antioch, Illinois, just over the Wisconsin border, during the demonstrations that broke out after a police officer shot Jacob Blake. 36-year-old Joseph Rosenbaum and 26-year-old Anthony Huber were killed in the shootings. 27-year-old Gage Grosskreutz, who was armed with a pistol, was shot in the arm by Rittenhouse. After 2 weeks of testimony, the prosecution and defense had the chance to make their case to jurors before deliberations. George Smith kicks off our team coverage with what happened during closing arguments, and AJ Byapor is standing by with the split opinions on charges. George, what's the mood outside of the Kenosha County Courthouse right now?
27 News WKOW. This is breaking news.
Good evening. Another workplace shooting in Wisconsin, this time at Miller Coors headquarters in Milwaukee. We know that multiple people are dead.
We've been following developments all afternoon.
Now, this happened right across from the interstate from Miller Park. north of Miller Warehouse in western Milwaukee. Here's what we know right now. Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett says multiple people are dead. 8 people were shot, but police are not saying what their conditions are. The gunman was shot and killed by police. The shooter was a former employee fired earlier today.
We are expecting to get an update from police on the investigation at any moment.
Still a very active scene right now. AJ Bayatpour is live there right now. What's the situation, AJ?
I'm on the phone with a caller that is hiding under his desk. States that the subject has a gun.
Now to that breaking story we've been following all day. Several people are in the hospital after a shooting at a software company in Middleton. I'm Jennifer Cleese. We'll be checking in live from Middleton with George Smith in just a minute. But first, we want to tell you what we know so far in this shooting. Right now, police are still investigating exactly what happened. The shooting happened this morning at WTS Paradigm on Deming Way. 4 people were hurt. 3 were shot and are still in the hospital tonight. 1 person was grazed by a bullet. Right now, 1 victim is in critical condition and the 2 others are in serious condition. The suspect, who we just learned was an employee of WTS from Madison, was shot by officers and died at a hospital. For about 3 hours, the entire area surrounding the shooting in the Greenway Station area was on lockdown. That includes other businesses, schools, and daycares. Take a look at this video from our 27 Skytrack drone showing just how chaotic it all was today. This is from above Deming Way. You can see all the police cars and ambulances. There were reportedly more than 40 of them on scene. And 27 News has complete team coverage of this shooting. The investigation live from Middleton. Tony Galley, Michelle Alfini, and Emily Fannin are standing by. But let's start with George Smith. He's been at the scene of the shooting all day and continues to follow this story. George?
13-year-old Jamie Kloss, who's been missing since October when her parents were found murdered, is alive. We are just beginning to get a picture of what happened as police have arrested and charged a suspect. Authorities say Jamie was discovered nearly 70 miles away from where she was last seen in Barron. Gordon, Wisconsin is in Douglas County. This is where Jamie was found. Authorities blocked it off most of the day. A dirt road dotted with some vacation homes. The woman who called 911 after someone brought Jamie to her house says she knew instantly what was happening.
We've seen her picture a million times around here. She looked exactly the same as she did in her picture, a little bit thinner, I would say. And then she looked really tired and like she's been fighting a battle for weeks, so.
Authorities say Jamie disappeared October 15th after her parents, James and Denise Kloss, were found shot to death in their home. Their funerals were held a month later on November 15th. Authorities say despite their work to find Jamie, she ended up saving herself nearly 3 months after she was kidnapped. Our team is in Barron to bring you team coverage on this story. Hunter Signs is tracking brand new developments about the suspect. George Smith is talking with authorities on the case. And George, this has been an amazing 24 hours. Right now, the Sun Prairie community is recovering after a deadly explosion. Here's what we know right now. It happened last night after a contractor hit a gas main, sparking a leak. Everyone had just evacuated the area when the explosion happened, leveling several buildings and killing a firefighter. Authorities are still trying to sort through the damage left behind. We're expecting another update on this deadly explosion from the Sun Prairie city officials at 6 o'clock. Governor Scott Walker is also on his way and is expected to be at that news conference. We'll bring that to you live during our newscast. The explosion happened last night just after 7 o'clock at the area of Main Street and Bristol Street. It prompted a 5-block evacuation. People miles away say it shook their homes. And while the evacuation area is getting smaller, there are still areas that are off limits. Authorities just updated us saying they include Main Street between Jones and Market, South Street, West Lane Street, East Lane Street, South Bristol Street, North Bristol from Cliff Street South, Angel Street, Columbus Street from Main to Church, Church Street, and Fine Street. You can see why these areas are still evacuated in this drone video shot by a viewer. It shows the raging fire above the 2 buildings destroyed in the explosion, Bar House Tavern and Glass Nickel Pizza. And this drone video from our Milwaukee affiliate shows the aftermath. There's basically nothing left, just the foundation of one building. The other is just a bunch of splintered wood and steaming hot spots. 27 News has complete team coverage on this explosion. Our crews are standing by to get you updated on everything we know so far. Let's head out to George Smith, who's anchoring from the explosion site. George?
Parts of the area are taking cover. We've had 6 straight days of severe storms.
The National Weather Service says at least 3 tornadoes have touched down this afternoon. The first in Pulaski, near Green Bay, a second just south of Wausau, and a third near the New Lisbon area. That tornado you can see on video here. It's far in the background from this DOT camera on the interstate, the giant cloud moving across the area right there. We're also seeing new video of the tornado in Pulaski. It was only on the ground for a couple of minutes, but there's still a chance for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail in that area.
That system has passed, but another is heading our way. It's the calm before the storm here in Dane County, but we'll see rain pretty soon. Chief Meteorologist John Ziegler is tracking that out for us. JZ?
Yeah, guys, it has been a very active day once again. Tonight has been a little different. We've been dealing with supercell thunderstorms, not lines of storms. It is fairly uncommon, not impossible, but uncommon in Wisconsin to have supercells. That's where you have the threat for strong tornadoes. I think this video is the one near Toma that tells the story perfectly. This is from Vince Welty. Now, he was very close to this, and you can see it's difficult to see because of the trees. You start to see that is the tornado there. It's so large that it doesn't actually look like one. We call these wedge tornadoes. As you look in the background, it looks like this giant thing, giant cloud, but that is the tornado throwing debris in the sky, and you can almost imagine this, him driving by. Why did we not get a whole lot of reports or people talking about the storm? It's because it was hard to see through the woods and all the valleys and hills there. Now we're watching 2 supercells, one near Dodgeville. One just produced a tornado warning south of the border near Galena there. I want to go into this one. It's actually not severe at the moment. Good news there, but I'm still going to track it out for you. This one has nickel-size hail on it. It does have rotation, so we will continue to watch these closely. But areas near Springdale at 626, New Glarus, it'll get there at 630. Verona, 636, probably skirts the south side of Madison. So Fitchburg, you're in this at 642. I would say 640, 645 in Oregon. It might start before this date, but the cell with the hail will get here a little bit after the rain begins. We'll continue to monitor the cell. We'll track the entire night out for you in the full forecast.
John, thank you. It's another tough day for the state. Yesterday's storms created a tornado in Outagamie County. The National Weather Service says it touched down near Black Creek, about 17 miles from Shawano. Neighbors from across the area pitched in to help clean up. The tornado tearing away part of a roof, flipping a car, and tossing around a horse trailer.
I mean, it was a full funnel that came down and touched down.
And what were you thinking when you saw it? Did you try to take cover? I mean...
Yeah, well, yeah, my wife was yelling for us to get to the basement, so we went down to the basement.
The Sheriff's Department says besides the house, the tornado caused mostly tree damage. Crews are still working to restore power to people in Spring Green after yesterday's storms. Roads throughout the village are lined with branches today. One tree split in half, pulling down power lines and breaking a power pole. This morning, there were a couple thousand of people without electricity. Now, a couple dozen do not have it. If storms yesterday or today caused damage in your area, you can send us photos by emailing connect@wkow.com. You can find a slideshow of pictures up on our website right now.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jennifer Kleese. Right now, parts of Dane County are still underwater, and now Governor Scott Walker is declaring a state of emergency because of this historic flooding. In this video from above the village of Maizomanie, you can see just how it's been transformed into a series of canals. Farther east in Cross Plains is a similar scene. The National Weather Service estimates that area got around 15 inches of rain in less than 24 hours. And in Middleton, hundreds of people were stranded in their homes, apartments, and hotels. You can see in this video dozens of cars scattered in flooded roads. We put our 27 SkyTrack drone up over the west side of Madison to get a better look at the damage there. This is from above Odana Road, where more than a dozen cars were just left abandoned after getting stuck in the flooding. Since then, that flooding has gone down on Odana, but the damage there is already done. We have extended team coverage on this historic flooding. We're taking you to Maizomanie, Black Earth, Cross Plains, Middleton, Madison, and Belleville.
27 News WKOW. Here's what's happening right now.
More than 1.1 million people in Wisconsin received at least the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Millions more waiting their turn. So when is it your turn to get the vaccine? And is it safe to see vaccinated people? We're getting answers.
The current CDC guidance says if both individuals are fully vaccinated, then it is safe to socialize indoors without masking.
We have doctors and other health experts ready to answer your questions. Tomorrow marks 1 year since the COVID-19 outbreak was declared a pandemic. A year later, we work towards getting back to normal life.
Things are starting to change, and it's really wonderful and encouraging.
A special edition of 27 News at 6 starts right now.
We've got you covered. This is 27 News at 6.
Good evening. I'm Amber Noggle.
I'm George Smith. Thank you for joining us for this 27 News special, Vaccines Getting Answers.
1 year since COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic, there's hope about an end in sight. The coronavirus vaccine has already gone into the arms of more than 1 million Wisconsinites, 19% of the population. And experts agree the way out of this pandemic is through a needle.
3 shots are available now. The Pfizer vaccine was approved for emergency use on December 11th. The Moderna vaccine was approved December 18th. Both require 2 doses. The single-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine was approved by the FDA on February 27th. All 3 of the vaccines are circulating in Wisconsin. We're tracking how we're performing compared to other states and how counties are doing getting people vaccinated. AJ Bayapur gives you a look at the statewide and county-level data.
After a slow start that had Wisconsin ranked among the bottom states in the Midwest, the vaccine rollout here has turned around. According to the Department of Health Services, 19% of the state's population has gotten at least 1 dose. Nearly 11% are completely vaccinated. A total of 1.78 million shots have been administered. And considering age is the biggest risk factor of all in COVID deaths, perhaps the most encouraging stat is nearly 2/3 of Wisconsinites 65 and older have gotten at least 1 shot.
We're doing really well. We are tops in the Great Lake Midwestern states in terms of doses per 100,000 people. We're about 13th in the nation.
As of Wednesday, Wisconsin ranked 15th in the nation for doses per 100,000, but indeed still first in the Midwest. In our part of the state, you can see just about every county has a higher percentage of people with at least 1 dose compared to the statewide number. In fact, Jefferson County is the only one under 19%, and that's just barely. Iowa County leads the area at 24.7%. It's one of the highest rates in Wisconsin. DHS officials and the state's leading vaccinators say at this point, the biggest obstacle is supply.
I just say to people, hold on a couple more months, more vaccines coming, we'll get it to you.
Something they hope will continue to improve. In Madison, AJ Bayapur, 27 News.
Wisconsin's 7-day average of new COVID-19 cases is at its lowest since last June. The Department of Health Services says the average is 391 cases, half of what we were seeing a month ago. Dane County reported another 46 cases today. 21 were reported in Rock County. All others in our area saw fewer than 20 new cases. Experts are encouraging everyone to get the vaccine as soon as it's available to them. But we've heard from many of you who've had trouble getting an appointment. Jennifer Cleasy is getting answers on the resources available for those who are eligible.
Across Wisconsin, vaccinators are giving out more shots every day.
I have to make this quick.
But there's still not enough for everyone.
We know that the demand still exceeds supply, and we know it's hard.
Dane County Public Health Director Janelle Heinrich says the goal is for healthcare providers to vaccinate patients. But if you're eligible and haven't heard back yet, you should look elsewhere. The state has recently launched a vaccine provider map. Here you can see every spot in your area giving out the dose, like pharmacies. You can narrow it by county and find links to providers' websites to register for different clinics.
You know, this we're hoping can make it accessible when vaccines available, but there's a variety of different ways you can you can try to find that vaccine right now.
The state has also set up a vaccine registry so eligible people can find appointments. Only 5 vaccinators are using it right now, though, including Greene County and the state-run clinic in Janesville.
We've had some hiccups in terms of the rollout.
Dane County Operations Chief Doug Vagley believes it'll be a crucial resource for the next phase of vaccination, speeding up scheduling and paperwork.
If we can get the system in and running, we can do about 7,000 a week. So it does have a big impact on our ability to get more vaccine in arms.
One more resource to help protect the community.
I know it's been very difficult for people to wait, but I think we're at a point where our supply is going to be catching up and we're going to be able to really get moving and get a lot more people vaccinated.
Jennifer Cleese, 27 News.
And if you're not comfortable going online or don't have access to the internet, health officials can answer your questions by phone. The vaccine hotline is 844-684-1064.
As more people are vaccinated for the coronavirus, some are asking if they still need the shot if they already had COVID-19. The CDC says even people who have had the virus can benefit from getting the vaccine. But local experts say you should wait until you're healthy.
Well, what we say is wait for 10 or 14 days until you're symptom-free, until it's safe for you to leave your quarantine and go to get the vaccine. But yeah, as soon as it's safe to do so, they should get the vaccine.
Experts say right now immunity from the vaccine lasts 3 to 6 months, but it could be longer. Studies are ongoing.
Jumping off of that, Renita Olson wanted to know if you've had COVID-19 and get the vaccine, are you less likely to get side effects from the vaccine? SSM Health Vice President of Pharmacy, Mo Carbod, says there's no evidence that suggests you would react differently to the vaccine or that you would not have side effects or have more side effects than others.
Many of us have questions about the rollout and the vaccine timeline. To get some answers, we're now joined by Wisconsin Department of Health Services, Julie Willems-Van Dyke. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be with you.
So President Biden said last week he expects to have enough supply for all adult Americans to get at least the first dose by the end of May. How realistic do you think that is?
Well, I'm very hopeful about that. We've been meeting regularly with our colleagues at the federal government, and the predictions they're giving us about vaccine supply suggest that that is a realistic goal, that we'll be ready to open eligibility for all adults in May. Now, whether everybody will have their first dose by the end of May, that's going to depend on a lot of factors, but we're certainly going to be well on our way.
A lot of people are wondering about Phase 1C. That includes one of our viewers, Alan. He wants to know when people under 65 with pre-existing conditions will be able to get the vaccine.
So we're getting ready to announce Phase 1C. We're not yet in that. We just announced Phase 1B and began that on March 1st. But we'll be announcing Phase 1C later this week. And we'll be following guidance from our State Disaster Medical Advisory Committee and the CDC, and they've all focused on people with chronic conditions. You know, we're doing just such a great job here getting vaccines out into the world, and we're really excited to get more into the arms of people like your viewer who are concerned because they have a chronic illness.
How long do you think it'll be before we'll start vaccinating the general population?
Well, per what President Biden indicated, I think we're looking towards the late spring. Hopefully in the month of May, we'll be able to open up to broader populations. And, you know, as soon as the federal government gets us vaccine, we're getting it out to our vaccinators. And we have thousands across the state, and they are getting it into arms. In fact, Wisconsin ranks first in the nation in the percentage of doses distributed to us that we get in arms at 92%.
Another viewer question from Maria who wants to know whether the vaccine decision makers keep in mind that not everyone turns 65 at the same time. Do they move to the top of the priority list once they have their birthday?
Absolutely. Once you are in an eligibility group, you never lose your eligibility. I like to think of it as boarding an airplane, you know? They call Group A first and Group B next, and if you came and you're in Group A and Group B is boarding, you still can get on that airplane. In fact, you can go to the front of the line. So, absolutely, you'll still have eligibility.
All right, Julie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parents and those expecting have a lot of questions about the vaccine, myself included. And to help us answer some of those questions today, we have Dr. William Hartman from UW Health. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So first, I've had a number of discussions with my doctors about this question. What is the recommendation for pregnant women when it comes to the vaccine?
So the recommendation from the American College of Obstetrician and Gynecology is that no woman should not receive the vaccine because she's pregnant. They want you to talk it over with your OBGYN to make sure you have all your questions answered. But to this point, there is no evidence that the vaccines are harmful in any way to a pregnant woman. And the devastating effects of COVID-19, if you were to get it while you are pregnant, certainly offset any of the bad things that could happen with the vaccine. And so right now, the recommendation is that pregnant women should receive it if they want it, and they should discuss it with their OBGYN beforehand, just so they get all their questions answered.
And that is good news there. One of our viewers, Jennifer, is asking, what effect does the vaccine have on babies and breast milk?
So there's actually a brand new study that it's currently under review, but it was put onto a preprint server just this week, showing that once a woman has been vaccinated, within about 5 days, there is noticeable antibodies in the breast milk. With a couple days after that, there's actually a pretty robust response in terms of having antibodies in the breast milk. And so this is presumed to be protective for the baby. So that's actually very good news, and is something that we've been waiting to see. So it's nice to have a report like that out there now.
Yeah, fantastic news for expecting moms like myself. And this is a great question for parents. When will we know if our children can get the vaccine?
So those studies are about to get going for young children between ages 6 months and 12 years. We'll look forward to starting those trials for these vaccines probably in the next month to 2 months. For children ages 12 to 16 and 12 to 17, those trials are currently ongoing, not here at Madison, but at other sites throughout the country. So we're hoping to get those answers very soon. The younger children results we would expect probably middle to late summer, so that we'll know going into the school year next year the dose and the safety and the effectiveness of these vaccines in younger kids.
All right, Dr. Hartman, thank you so much for your expertise today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Health officials across the country are making progress with vaccinations. Johns Hopkins University reports more than 31 million people in the United States are now fully vaccinated against the virus. That's about 9% of the population. In Wisconsin, that number is just under 11% of the population.
The CDC says people who are fully vaccinated can now safely visit others without masks and social distancing. Caroline Dade asked a doctor who's been on the front lines for more than a year why getting her shots was a big step toward normal.
I don't have the same kind of level of paranoia maybe that was there before.
Dr. Allison Schwartz is the Associate Director of Infectious Diseases for SSM Health Wisconsin. She got her first dose of the Pfizer vaccine on December 22nd, and her second dose exactly 3 weeks later.
On the second shot, I felt off. I felt a little bit achy. Kind of that mental fog that some people are describing.
But those symptoms didn't last long. She says she headed to bed early but woke up just a few hours later.
I was wide awake and as if nothing had happened. So that was about 27 hours after the shot, and then I felt good and really no lasting side effects at all.
Now, as more people are getting vaccinated.
My husband has had one vaccine, so he'll be fully vaccinated, and my sister has had one vaccine, so she'll be fully vaccinated.
And even though she isn't ready to fully resume pre-pandemic life,
I'm still an infectious disease provider, so we are relatively conservative.
Schwartz says pieces of her life are slowly starting to get back to normal.
thinking about that road trip and meeting at a cabin with people who we haven't seen, we are starting to look forward towards those things.
And she says that progress is all thanks to 2 shots in the arm.
This will change things. You will have more freedoms that maybe someone who's not vaccinated will have, and that is sort of another personal incentive to get it.
Caroline Dade, 27 News.
As officials continue their work vaccinating the public, we'll continue answering your questions. Jacqueline Burdick wants to know if certain medications can cause harmful side effects when coupled with the vaccine. UW Health's Dr. William Hartman says while there's talk that ibuprofen and Tylenol can reduce immune response, that has not happened. As long as you don't take huge doses, it's okay to help treat your symptoms after receiving the vaccine.
If we didn't get to your question, don't worry. We are answering more right after this newscast. Stick with us for a special Facebook Live featuring a local health expert. It starts at 6:30.